What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
So I've picked up a fun new habit now when we're recording that I very much need to stop. So fairly recently, like maybe a month or two ago, I was visiting my folks at where I grew up, and decided that I'm gonna bring all my Legos with me back up to Boston. And now I'm completely surrounded by Legos.
Oh,
and
no.
I fiddle with things. So now I just there's Legos around, so I keep grabbing Legos and like connecting them and disconnecting them and fiddling with them like in my hands, like for sometimes like I think almost the entire recording. And so far,
Oh, so you've done it during the recording in the past.
the noise of it has like barely shown up on the microphone, but then
I haven't
gets
noticed.
smoothed out at the noise reduction with the noise removal. But I always get very paranoid, like usually halfway through the episode when I finally notice that I've just been connecting these two pieces together, because some connections are louder than others.
Right.
And like I need to just not fiddle, but at the same time I can't really talk without like doing something.
You need to get a silent fiddle thing, like a stress ball or something.
So it's actually funny you say that, because literally as you were mentioning this, I was and frequently do I record. So in my like headphone cable, it's one of those sort of like braided cables, you know, and there's a little kink in it, and I kind of wrapped it around stuff a couple times and made it into like a little spring that kind of just there constantly now. And I pretty much always, while we're recording, am just like compressing and uncompressing that like little like cable spring, which is probably really bad for the cable.
Yeah, you're gonna break it.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna happen, but it's really soothing, so I totally understand.
I don't fiddle with anything. I just sit here.
Oh, I don't know how you do that. So I put away the Legos now, and now I'm in PJ pants because I stayed home sick today. But now I'm just like have the string from the pajama pants. I'm kind of just like rolling them up into a big spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll probably do that, probably like 18 dozen times in the next hour. But at least it's quiet.
Yeah, spirals are a very good fidget shape. I've learned in my years.
I guess I sort of like squeeze my finger sometimes, I guess.
That's
sort
nothing.
Of fiddling.
That's nothing.
It's
That's not a
fiddling
thing.
little bit. Fiddling with my finger.
I also so I'm in like a rolly chair, and I pretty much always sort of swivel back and forth the entire time we're recording.
Oh, good.
I'm also in a swivel chair, but I don't swivel back and forth. But my apartment is sort of slanted one way, so if I like lift my feet, then I naturally swing away from the mic. So every once in a while, I have to adjust myself.
I now imagine your apartment at like a 30-degree angle, like way more extreme than it is.
Right. I was really hoping you were going to say you roll, which seemed impossible, but...
Yeah, that would be a problem. I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't live here that long
Right.
if that was the case.
Yeah, we have to gift Chris a grab bar so he can install it on his desk so he doesn't go away.
Right, seriously.
Oh my god.
Or just like a chair without wheels also works.
That would work.
Well, that's boring.
Yeah.
Plus, he can also just save energy if he has to go to like the kitchen to grab something. He can like save the energy one way.
But what if the door is away from the slant of the room?
Well, then he doesn't save. Then he just has to use effort. That's fine.
Well, I'm in the
fair.
studio, so there is no door to the kitchen.
Ah, got me there. You're right. That's how
It's
they
all
get
in
you.
one room.
So what we're saying is my grab bar solution is perfect, and everyone should just stop trying to debunk it.
Just take your pulley system. You had a pulley system in one
Yeah,
of
I was
your
just saying the
answers.
pulley system where you had like wore a harness and like roped yourself onto your house and hauled yourself around.
What if you have a bucket of water and you go to the top of your apartment and you pour the bucket of water down, and then you have a little like a little water wheel that generates energy and then you let go of your chair, go collect the water, and put it back to the top of your apartment to generate free electricity.
This seems impractical.
I have electricity.
Yeah, but it's basically no effort to walk from one side of the room to the other. And I mean, it's just collecting the water. Like, you can have it drain into a bucket and then just take the bucket up again and dump it, and you're good.
But why not? Why not do that instead
Yeah,
as an alternative?
yeah. I'm with Ben.
All right,
Like,
well,
my counter plan.
well, I mean, if you're with Ben, that's really going to hurt my chances in our question for this week, which is which soda mascot would win in a fight? So, should we say which all three of ours are? Or should we
Yeah,
just do ours?
Yeah, we probably.
I
probably
forget,
should.
what did we do in the past? Have we said all of them straight out?
No, I guess we actually go. I think what we could do is go through
Yeah, we
each
go one by
combatant
one.
first.
All right, we'll save the suspense. We won't spoil it,
Yeah.
except for mine because I'm going first. So my mascot is the 7-Up mascot, who is known as Cool Spot.
So cool.
Hey, when's the last time either of you guys had a 7-Up?
I mean, I don't drink soda really anymore, so
I don't really either. When's the last time? Let me amend this. When's the last time you saw a 7-Up? Is that a real thing still?
It is still a thing. It still exists technically.
still exists.
So 7-Up is in a weird in-between ground where it is like more sweet and sugary than soda, but not as sweet and sugary as Mountain Dew. So I don't drink much soda now anymore anyway, but if I want a soda, I'll do like a Coke or Pepsi, somewhere that. And then I'm like, okay,
Right.
I feel a little bit bad about myself, but I got this slight satisfaction.
When I was doing the lemon lime drink, I would always choose Mist.
Sierra
Mist
Mist is
was
fine.
good.
Yeah, Sierra Mist is good. But then if I'm looking for like if I want to get like a sugar high, like an overhyped sugar high, I go for Mountain Dew.
Mountain
Like
Dew.
this
You
is
did the
the
Dew,
one that's
yeah.
going to ruin my body.
Yeah. Or Surge. Remember Surge?
Oh God, Surge.
Surge is awesome.
Yeah, there was one. Oh, this one's actually an energy drink. It was just called Balls. I remember.
I remember Balls.
BAWLZ Balls.
Yep. That was an early energy drink. God, an energy drink called Balls is possibly the most like early 2000s thing that has ever existed.
But anyway,
Anyway,
I have a mascot here. His name is Cool Spot. For those of you who don't know him, if you envision a 7-Up can or bottle in your head, you may be able to recall on all the green there is a red circle behind the 7 and like a little bit behind the U. So the mascot for 7-Up is Cool Spot, who's basically just this red spot personified or anthropomorphized, and so it'll like peel itself away from the can or the bottle, and it has like cartoon like hands and legs, like the little black stick with like gloves and sneakers, and it's got some cool shades on it so that you know that it is a cool spot, not just a regular spot.
mm-hmm.
Who would you say is cooler, him or Chester Cheetah?
Chester Cheetah by like a country mile.
Yeah, definitely Chester Cheetah.
Like if you had the two of them race like a quick sprint, however far ahead the cheetah would be in real life is how much cooler he is.
They both have sunglasses, so they're both cool. We know they're cool.
Yeah, Cool Spot's not that cool.
I feel like Cool Spot is trying too hard to be cool, whereas Chester Cheetah is just naturally cool.
Cool Spot just isn't trying too hard to do anything. Cool Spot, it just like exists. Like my
That is
opinion
pretty
after
cool.
watching commercials and things is just that it just exists. Like it's
He's-
there.
Came
But-
into existence. He's like, why am I here?
Yeah. So Cool Spot, they had like a run of commercials, and also they did a bunch of video games with Cool Spot.
I played one of them a lot when I was a kid.
Did you really?
I did. It was like one of my childhood things.
Which one was it? Do you remember?
I didn't know there was more than one.
Yeah, so there's Cool Spot, there's Spot the video game, there's Spot Cool Adventure, and then there's Spot Goes to Hollywood.
I think mine was just Cool Spot.
One of them had a pirate ship in it, right?
That one is Spot Goes to Hollywood. So Spot Goes to
Okay.
Hollywood. So they're all except one of them are platforming kind of adventures, like just action platformers.
Mm-hmm.
Spot Goes to Hollywood, it's like an isometric game, so it's like that weird 45-degree tilt, and you make your way up. You like walk across this map, like collecting things and fighting enemies. One of them is like two other ones are like 2D, and then oh shoot, which one is it? I can't remember. I can't tell the difference between Cool Spot the game and Spot Cool Adventure anymore. I think Cool
You're in
Spot is
too
the one
deep.
that was like I couldn't find a version to play or like too much info on it, but based on how they described the game, it sounded like it's basically just Othello but with spots and animations. Like it's like this is a board game where you like put down tiles and you'll flip adjacent tiles to your color. I'm like, okay, I think I've played this before.
He is the right shape.
So that's basically what Spot is. He's a little spot that comes off the can, arms and legs, And from his games, he has some abilities. He is in a bunch of platforming games. He's somewhat acrobatic, so he can do like flips, he can do like jumps, and he can pick up blocks, I guess. He doesn't have a lot of abilities in his games, but his main one is that he can fire soda bubbles, so he can shoot little like carbonation bubbles from his hands to
Oh no.
mildly damage enemies. Yeah, they're not very destructive. Like it'll take like he's fighting things at his scale, so like it'll take like 6 bubbles to like kill a hermit crab. Like that's not very good rate.
If he fires out like carbonation bubbles, is he contributing to global warming?
I mean, maybe it depends how much 7-Up there is and how much he fucks around. So really that's actually all I got from like all 4 games is like jumping, like being slightly acrobatic and shooting soda bubbles.
Okay.
So he is able to meld with his original can of 7-Up if he needs to either hide or I guess he could try and avoid danger that way. I don't know what happens to him if his can gets destroyed.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to destroy a can.
Right.
Yeah. But one thing I do notice is that if there's like a case of 7-Up or multiple 7-Ups around, the cool spots will work together. So there's not necessarily just one of him.
So there's an army of cool spots.
Yeah, so there could be multiple, like commercials will feature oftentimes like 6 to 8 cool spots at once.
Okay.
So they're all over the place, maybe. Some of the admitted drawbacks, he's very small. He is the size of the spot on the can. The soda bubbles, again, not particularly destructive.
What if there's like a 7-Up billboard and it has the spot on the billboard?
So yeah, I was actually gonna get there.
Oh, okay.
So in one to kind of reduce the drawback of him being very small, there was one commercial where the 7-Up logo on the side of a truck animated like the cans and helped them open the truck door. So that implies any 7-Up dot can animate. So I did try to find the biggest 7-Up ad I could possibly find, which was a surprisingly hard Google search.
What did you search?
Well, I searched like biggest 7-Up ad. I looked up like 7-Up billboard, 7-Up promotions, 7-Up a bunch of stuff. I went to like their Twitter to see if they had like anything cool, maybe like a flying banner or something. But despite my best efforts, all I could find was like a typical billboard. And so a billboard's about 14 foot tall by 28 foot wide. But the spot itself isn't a huge thing on it. So if you get the biggest 7-Up billboard spot, it's really still like a 5 foot spot. And then you have
like a person.
One of him. But I think if we accept that billboard spots count, I would use like a 5 foot big cool spot.
With maybe some soda can size helper spots as well.
Yeah, like so like he has like a little like that plus like a tiny army. He's gonna need some help.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'm at. God, I actually tried. I'm trying to think. I tried to play all these games today, and I played a little bit of 3 of them, and they're just bad games, guys. They're bad. Chris, I'm sorry about your childhood.
No, the one I played was awesome.
The game is bad. The controls are garbage. The movement is so janky.
It was really hard. I remember it was hard.
And yeah, and it was difficult. Like the games were like just difficult, not because they were made to like be challenging, just because you're fighting against the motion of your character all the time. So
I actually don't think I ever got past like the second level. I just played the first 2 levels over and over again. But that's what you do when you're a kid.
They didn't have any save features in any of their games, so they're all like go until you get a game over.
Right. Well, that was like all games back then.
No, that was all games they didn't put any effort in back then.
It was Sega Genesis. Did Sega Genesis have saves?
Some of the. I think they did like the save codes sometimes. You got like a level code.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
right, passwords. That made you feel so smart as a kid when you flicked up like the level code password somewhere.
God, yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I can skip to level 8. Level 8, guys. I could not play the first 7 levels of this game
that I paid for.
Right.
So yeah, that's basically my setup for Cool Spot. He's a spot with arms and legs, and he can shoot soda bubbles and sunglasses. So he's pretty cool. God, he really doesn't have much going for him after that, though.
I mean, I think the biggest thing you have going for you is that there's multiple of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's more of me, and I have one strategy. I'll get to it later.
Okay.
Once we're deeper in the discussion. Next up is
me.
Chris. Tell me about your soda mascot.
So I did Pepsi, and here in America, Pepsi doesn't really have a mascot, but in the 90s, there was a Japanese ad campaign, and they created Pepsiman. So Pepsiman is basically just like a big muscular dude with like...
I'm like, I now have the image of just like a shirtless like wrestler.
Well, I guess he's sort of wearing like a spandex suit, like all
It's
over.
spandexy, yeah.
I don't actually know if it's spandex. It might just be his skin, and that's what he is.
It is unclear.
But yeah, he's basically, he looks like he's spandexy, and he has like a giant Pepsi logo on his chest, and he's like silver and red. He doesn't have any eyes, which is weird. And
What does he have? What does his face look like?
It's just a blank face, and then he has a mouth. The mouth is really creepy. A really, really creepy mouth. I'll show you guys in a little bit, but
Does the spandex go over his head?
it's like all one piece. Like there's no skin showing.
Right.
Like one of those like those like green screen suits?
Yeah, like one of those.
Okay, so it's like a green screen suit that's silver with a Pepsi logo on it.
Right,
it's silver
correct.
and blue, right?
I think it's silver, red, and blue. Those are the Pepsi colors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some variations too, so that there are different ones.
Right.
And now it has a mouth?
It has a mouth as well. That's like part of his character, I guess, like what he does. I'll get to that. But there were 12 commercials in total in this ad campaign. That's all of the Pepsi Man commercials. And all these commercials basically followed the exact same formula. It starts out with someone who's thirsty or who wants Pepsi. And then he has a theme song, and his theme song pops up, and his theme song is actually pretty awesome. I am going to play it for you guys right now.
Pepsi Man!
Wow. Okay.
That's so like action anime-y. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's his theme song, and while that theme song's playing, it basically just shows him like sprinting down the street or wherever the person that wants Pepsi is at like full speed, just a full speed sprint. And he runs up to them, he extends his hand, and he opens his mouth and makes this really creepy like fizzing noise. I guess it's supposed to be Pepsi, like a Pepsi fizz. And then like a can of Pepsi just materializes in their hand. And then
Wait, so his mouth opens and then a Pepsi materializes in his hand.
in the person's hand, not his hand. It's weird. I have a GIF of
A GIF?
this is a GIF. I usually pronounce it GIF. I don't know why I pronounced it GIF that time.
GIF is correct, so continue.
This isn't helpful for the listeners, but it will help.
It's helping them because now they
guys.
know how to correctly say GIF.
Yeah. So click on the link.
Oh, God.
no.
Why? No.
Yeah,
no,
that's-
it's too...
That's what he does with his mouth.
It's like a dolphin's blowhole.
Yeah. So he does that mouth thing where he's like making a noise there when he opens it up, and then he holds out his hand, and then Pepsi materializes. So that
That's
happens.
too...
Yeah.
That's too much. That's
It is
wrong.
too much.
They should know this is wrong. This is not acceptable.
Well,
Well,
the 90s.
Japan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty
Even
standard
by-
for Japan.
Even by 90s Japan standards, this is not an acceptable way to make a mouth for a Pepsi mascot. I'm legitimately upset about this.
I am too. I'm not happy. I keep watching it.
Yeah, it's just on repeat.
It's just staring you in the face. Like you can't look away, and it can't be better. The mouth is too like big.
And the face is too smooth without any other features other than the
Right.
mouth.
It just you managed to land a real person into Uncanny Valley.
I'm not happy about this.
Yeah. So that's basically what happens in every commercial. And then after the person gets their Pepsi, he usually tries to like run away or he does something and he ends up hurting himself.
Oh no, that's not a good. That's
Yeah.
a little bit of a drawback.
He's pretty clumsy. He like tries to like run out a window or something and runs into the glass or like gets punched by a boxer or something. He always gets hurt. So there are two powers I can infer from these. One is that he can create a can of Pepsi on command, which isn't useful at all for me.
You don't know that.
Not with that level of creativity.
I mean, I guess I have like a projectile. I can throw them at you.
Boom, done.
it would squish me. I'm very small.
Yeah. And then the second one is that he's actually really fast. So there was one commercial where there was an 18-wheeler chasing him. I guess it was supposed to be a Coca-Cola truck because, I don't know, but the logo is blurred out.
Right.
Oh my god, of course.
And the 18-wheeler is going like pretty fast. Like it's basically its top speed, I would think. And he was like outrunning it pretty easily. So I looked up the average speed of how fast like 18-wheelers can go. And I found anywhere from like 55 miles per hour to 85 miles per hour. So I just averaged that and said that he can run 70 miles per hour. So that's pretty fast. He can run
very
pretty fast.
That's a real power.
Yeah. He has super speed. The negative from the commercials and I guess from his speed is that he's really clumsy. Because he usually gets hurt because he's running that fast.
That makes sense.
It's a little give and take there.
Yeah, so I guess he doesn't have the best reaction time. But if he has like a clear straightaway, then he can run fast.
All right, Ben. I'm starting to feel like yours might be the shining, the knight in shining armor we're looking for as our hero.
It's possible.
The thing is, he is clumsy and he does get hurt a lot, but he's also like super resilient. He gets hurt, but he can usually withstand that pain. So like there's an example in one of the commercials where he dives off of like a high-rise hotel into a pool, and he hits his head into the floor of the pool and goes like makes a crater in the floor. He gets stuck in there, but he's still like moving around and stuff. So his head was strong enough to break the ground, and obviously he got hurt, but he was fine.
And you complain that I gave Toucan Sam super strength based on his cartoon physics.
And then another one, he gets hit over and over again by a professional boxer in the head, like one of those rhythm punching bag things, but with his head, and he's fine. So yes, it is cartoon physics pretty much, but I don't know. I feel like this is more legitimate than the Toucan Sam thing.
Yeah, only because you watched those commercials and saw the context of them.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm bringing up an old feud here where I think Toucan Sam is the strongest of all of the cereal mascots.
I looked up like superpower wikis and stuff that he was on because he was on some of them, and I didn't use them like as official sources because they're not the most reliable. But
Right.
on a lot of those, they did say that he was really resilient because of those examples that I used.
All right.
So it's not
That's
just
fair.
me.
The boxer one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then another thing is he doesn't have eyes. So it's kind of implied that he doesn't have to see. There was one commercial where he's wearing a yellow ski mask. I guess it's supposed to be for Pepsi Twist, which is like a lemon version of Pepsi. And his head was supposed to look like a lemon. But he was running with the yellow ski mask on at full speed, and he apparently could see without having to see. So I don't know.
Or maybe that's why he's so clumsy.
Right.
Yeah. He's clumsy because he can't see.
It does check out.
He's covered up his eyes with a yellow ski hat.
Or just he doesn't have eyes. And then he does have a metal chain around his neck. He doesn't ever do anything with it, but I feel like he could use it as a weapon if he wanted to.
That seems more a liability than anything.
He has a convenient handle.
Yeah, a convenient.
Yeah.
He's like pre-chokehold.
Well, he could take it off and swing it around.
Well, not if he's choking to death on it. But
True.
Anywho,
And then he wasn't just in those commercials. He also had video games. So he had his own video game in 1999, just called Pepsiman. And he basically serves the same role as in the commercials. Someone wants Pepsi, and he runs through a level, and you have to make him run through the level and avoid obstacles.
Yeah, it's basically like Temple Run, right? Where it's like you run automatically
sort of
and
like that.
jump over shit and roll under shit.
Right. And it plays the Pepsi Man theme song like the entire time.
Of course.
Of course. And this game doesn't really add anything to his fighting abilities, but there was another game because Pepsi Man actually wasn't the first game he was in. The first game he was in was Fighting Vipers in 1996. Yeah. It was a game for the Sega Saturn. It's just like a 2D fighting game.
Wait, Ben, why did you go, oh yeah? Did you play that game?
No, because I haven't played it, but I remember hearing about this. I don't know why. I have no idea when I would have, but yeah.
He was actually a playable fighter in it. I guess it's because Sega and Pepsi had a partnership or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was one of the characters. And for all the characters, they list stats. So they have, like, name, Pepsi Man, age, question mark, sex, male, because he's Pepsi Man.
Sex? Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Height, question mark, weight, question mark, specialty, quench one's thirst.
Oh, good.
So, I guess that's his specialty. But in the game, he actually has, like, legitimate fighting moves like all the other characters. So he does have fighting experience, and he's a decent fighter.
I'd buy it. I mean, if he's that fit, like, he's basically just a muscle man.
Yeah, he is muscular, and he's, like, it doesn't say how tall he is, but he looks pretty tall. So that is basically all I have for Pepsi Man. Ben, who did you look at?
So when we started doing this question, Cool Spot and Pepsi Man were the two obvious ones I went to immediately. And then we tried to think of another one sort of similar, but the only thing we could really find was the Coca-Cola polar bear. So I did the Coca-Cola polar bear.
I was thinking maybe Santa, because that's also
That feels weird, though.
a mascot of Coke. Yeah,
That feels
it's
weird.
Also seems a little overpowered. Cool Spot's gonna have a tough enough time against a regular person, never mind Santa
Yeah.
Claus.
Right. Instead, let's just throw a 900-pound bear at him. So let's just go through, first let's go through the non-just regular polar bear stuff about the polar bear. So one thing, they are shown multiple times wearing, like, gloves and scarves and once ice skates. So they have some, like, they're not just regular polar bears. Like, they have some knowledge of, like, human technology, I guess. Which, going into that, there was a Super Bowl commercial where it actually shows them watching TV. I believe watching the Super Bowl was the implication. So some ability to operate human technology, which is, interesting.
Well, I think bears are smart enough to do that, even if they're not super smart bears.
Well, they like owned a TV. Like it wasn't like, it was like in their little like ice cave. They had their own TV. It wasn't just like they found like
Home ownership is more impressive to me than them watching TV. Like, there's
That's
circus
fair.
bears that do lots of cool and crazy things and use lots of tools. But
they don't buy a house.
this is true. Like that video of the Russian bears playing hockey. Seen that one? It's actually really sad. They like glued the sticks to their hands and stuff. It's pretty bad. Soviet Russia was a place. But also in that same Super Bowl commercial, so this is a place where I sort of saw some sort of like athletic ability from this bear. So he gets like angry at the game and goes outside, and there's some other polar bears out there, and they toss him a Coke, and he like has to lunge to grab it and sort of starts skipping off his hands, and he starts sliding on the ice. And then the other bears all start running at him for some reason. I think the implication is they're trying to stop him from sliding, but he's really focusing on trying to catch the bottle, which keeps going forwards as it like skips off his hands. So he starts like avoiding them and like going past them. So he like shoulder checks a guy and like stiff arms one and like does a spin move past a couple and like matrix dodges under one that was leaping and does complete the catch at the end. So good hand-eye coordination and just some good like football type skills in there.
I can picture the scene very well in my head right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty good commercial. And then for the most part, the commercials were pretty normal, just like, oh, they're sliding around the ice and then have a Coke, or they're like watching the Aurora Borealis and have a Coke. But there was one where they make a tower of polar bears and then grab the moon out of the sky and then use the moon as a bottle opener to open their Cokes and then put the moon back. Which is just a flex, because they're shown multiple times just opening the bottles up with their bare hands. And I just realized that in my notes, I wrote bare hands like bear the animal.
I mean, it's accurate.
It's accurate, but not what I really intended.
with
but
their bare
cool.
hands.
Yeah. So they're kind of show-offs, apparently, but also can remove the moon from the sky and use as a bottle opener. That might have been a dream sequence. I don't know, but it happened.
It happened in the commercial, and you can't tell me what to believe.
Like, there wasn't anything else as, like, weird and whatever is that ever, aside from that one commercial, which really threw me off. They were normally, like, it's weird that bears are drinking Coke, but, like, they were pretty standard otherwise. That was the only one that was, like, kind of bonkers. So I don't know. That was mostly what I got from the commercials themselves. I also found out that there's actually a 2012 short film called The Polar Bears, directed by Ridley Scott,
What?
starring Lin-Manuel Miranda and Armie Hammer.
What?
Wait,
Yeah.
why?
What year was this?
2012.
2012. Whoa.
Yeah, it's free on YouTube. It's like 7 minutes long.
So that was before Hamilton.
Yeah. It's free on YouTube. For some reason, YouTube has this video may be inappropriate for some users warning at the start of it. I don't know why.
Does it turn into a porno halfway through? Like, why?
No. Well, so actually, I'm going to briefly synopsize this because it's kind of bonkers as well. Basically, there's this polar bear family. There's like a dad and a mom, and then like an older son, a younger son, and then a younger daughter. And they're like walking to this like polar bear congregation. And the father is going to be giving a speech and possibly gain some kind of leadership position. It's not entirely clear. But they get there and the parents tell the like younger goof-off son to watch the daughter. And then they tell the responsible older son to watch both of them. And so they sort of wander off. And then immediately like the younger son decides he wants to go climb this really high peak and just like runs off. And the older son completely like, you know, giving up on his duties, to just tells the very young daughter to just wait there and runs off after the younger son. And they get up there and like, oh, and then like after that happens, immediately a puffin shows up and starts dancing with the daughter. I don't know.
What?
It's yeah. But then it goes up to them, they get to the top of the peak and they like are like sort of razzing each other, and then the younger one pushes the older one off the side so they like slide down. And they slide into where the father is giving his like very serious speech, and everyone's all like aghast at them like doing that. And everyone looks down and they see the daughter dancing with like 6 puffins on an island. And then everyone's like even more aghast at that. And someone says, and I quote, "Doesn't she know that bears and birds don't mix?" Thereby establishing the message of this short film.
I feel like I know less about this movie than from before you started explaining it.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, and then...
From the mind that made Alien.
Yeah, and Gladiator. This is basically the same.
Gladiator.
But yeah, basically then, like, the younger son jumps into the water with them, and they do, like, a synchronized swimming routine. And then the dad stands up and is like, "That's enough!" And then sort of looks around and then jumps in after them and also starts dancing. And then everyone's kind of just cool with the puffins, and that's the end. So sort of the moral of the story is that the polar bears can end racism. So that's pretty cool.
Good thing neither of us are racists.
Yes. So that power is not particularly relevant, but worthwhile in the grand scheme of things.
I still feel like I don't understand this movie.
Man,
but I'm
I
gonna let
don't
it go.
either, and I watched it twice because I just didn't comprehend it.
It's like, what are you trying to teach our children? Do you even know what you're trying to accomplish here?
I think it's that racism is bad and we shouldn't be it. But
I mean, that's the best
I
I
don't
can
know.
get behind.
Like, it was something. It was very strange. It got nominated for a Daytime Emmy. I don't know. For best casting, which seems really weird. It's a weird category.
For best casting?
Yeah. Just like having a good
Interesting.
cast. I don't know. But basically, things we learned from the commercials. Polar bear has opposable thumbs because they can open and hold bottles. Reasonable football skills. Can kind of use human technology and fights racism.
So they're like better than normal polar bears.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess you could also say they don't have like the killer instinct of a regular polar bear because they are somewhat acclimated to human culture, I guess.
Right.
I feel like the polar bears are like our baseline, where we have to get our guys as strong as a polar bear before we can even start talking about who's gonna win.
Right. That's kind of, yeah. Also, fun thing that I learned about polar bears doing this, they're basically invisible on infrared cameras because their blubber and fur is such a good insulator, which is kind of terrifying.
Well, if Pepsi Man's no eye situation is infrared, he's fucked.
This is true.
I think he just doesn't see, and that's how he does it.
He just doesn't perceive the
have
world
any
around
vision.
him. That might be a disadvantage, Chris.
Yeah,
Well, he's used to it.
I guess that's
You
true.
can't get used to not having information.
He relies on his other senses, even though it looks like from the pictures he doesn't have ears, but still.
So, fun fact, that large mouth hole actually smells, tastes, and hears.
Yeah, it does everything. That's why it's there.
Yeah, in the very back there's an eyeball.
Yeah. It's very dark.
Oh god.
All it sees is darkness and a single point of light in the distance.
All right, so I'm gonna circle back to cool spot, and I'm gonna play my card, which I think is my only valid strategy for winning anything. So if I have a decent sized spot, he can fire soda bubbles. That'll be like, softball size, maybe a little bigger. Like he shoots them out of his hand, and they're like kind of bigger than his hand, so they'd be a good size, maybe volleyball sized. These soda bubbles are not very destructive. They like just kind of plop, and even in the game, they feel very, very weak. Like it takes like a million shots to kill anything. But they are made of CO2 because they're soda bubbles. So if I can shoot these while you guys are trying to breathe, and you inhale CO2 instead of oxygen in that breath, that's bad. That's bad for you as living organisms.
That is
Can
true.
you get us in the bubble without popping it?
I think he means more like fire one directly into our mouths as we are inhaling.
Oh.
Yeah, like shoot like a CO2 orb so that when you inhale, you're now in the bubble. You're getting hit by the CO2 bubble at the same time. And the cool thing about that is that makes it more effective is that it's not the same as not getting oxygen for a breath. So if you inhale like pure nitrogen, for example, your body doesn't like it, but it's inert in the body. So you basically you can suffocate, but like if your next breath is oxygen, you're okay. CO2 is actually poisonous. So basically your body, when it inhales, it inhales the oxygen, combines with your gets absorbed into the blood and combines and makes a compound that is able to carry oxygen to all your cells. Your body actually prefers, it's easier for it to make the compound with CO2, but the CO2 doesn't do anything for you. The CO2 compound doesn't help your body at all. But it'll actively do it. So even like 1 or 2 breaths of pure CO2, I think, one sketchier source, because it was hard to find info exactly on this topic because there's a lot of CO2 related topics that are not. The science behind CO2 inhaling is like longer term, lower doses. But that one study was saying that if you breathe pure CO2 in like 1 or 2 breaths, it would replace half of your body's oxygen carrying blood compounds with the useless CO2 ones, and you would spasm and go unconscious and probably die. So that is my move, is that if I can make you inhale a CO2 bubble, I have a shot.
I do open my mouth often.
Well, it can hit your nose too. It doesn't have to go into your mouth. It's air.
Well, I don't have a nose.
Okay, fine, but yes, if you
I'm
breathe.
saying that I give opportunities for you to do this to me a lot, probably.
Yes, if you breathe, you do. If you breathe, there's opportunity.
I'm going to share another fun polar bear fact. Polar bears don't breathe. No.
They absorb their oxygen through their skin.
So polar bears are actually very good swimmers, which makes sense because, Arctic. But they can swim for really long times. So just like distance swimming, they can swim for like up to 10 days, traveling like hundreds of miles.
Jesus.
But they can also swim underwater for up to 3 minutes, and they are not breathing during that time. So at least for small amounts, like reasonably long amounts of time, they can hold their breath.
Right. So I guess my point is I have a projectile that can do something. It can do a thing. It's not
right.
It's not a tickle. It's not a tickle. It could potentially do something. The little spots, they're a little bit less useful. I think their biggest issue is that they're not particularly strong. In a lot of the commercials, they struggle with like, pulling levers or, interacting with things that are even close to their size. So I don't know. They might come up later, but the little spot army I have, it can help distract, I guess, but they're not doing some David Goliath nonsense.
No, yeah, that seems reasonable.
To counter your point for Pepsiman, I just looked at one of the commercials again. It looks like he does not open his mouth when he's running, so I don't know if he has to breathe when he's running. I don't know if he's a human.
I don't think he's a human. We already decided he doesn't have eyes or a nose.
Well, it could just be a guy in a spandex suit with his eyes covered.
Fair.
But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I was noticing that a lot of like the fan art, which there's a weirdly large amount of fan art of Pepsi Man, like more than official art.
He's pretty popular on the internet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Avengers jokes about him being the next Avenger.
Generally, his mouth hole is not visible. It's just like a smooth face.
I didn't know he had a mouth hole until I started researching. I knew about him.
You missed an important thing about the Pepsi Twist commercial, Chris.
What?
It's that in those Pepsi Twist commercials, it's not Pepsi Man, it's Pepsi Woman.
Now there's 2 of them.
Oh, no.
One's Pepsi Man, one's Pepsi Woman. The Pepsi Woman one is... I was actually going to mention this, but The Pepsi woman is for the Diet Pepsi twist.
Oh.
But it's an identical commercial. One of them just has boobs.
Got it. Checks out.
God, this is a really long Wikipedia page that does not say if he is a human or not.
So I think the main strategy, I didn't really come up with a plan, but I think strategies he could possibly do are just like running in circles around the polar bear and tiring him out. Because I think Pepsi Man actually has pretty high endurance.
And polar bears do get tired. They are large beasts, and they do get tired. This is true.
After they've swum their hundreds of miles.
Well, I mean, if they are like moving more quickly, they will get tired. But yes, they also can't swim for like 9 to 10 days at a time. So kind of a catch-22 there situation.
And he does have fighting experience, but I don't know. He probably wouldn't be that great at fighting a polar bear.
That seems like a fair assumption.
Yeah, I feel like if you guys just went fisticuffs,
Head to
head fight, I feel like the polar bear comes out like probably at least 3/4 of the time.
Yeah.
Because there's probably like, even though Pepsi Man is built and strong, like there's a good chance that Pepsi Man like does one of those things where he just punches the polar bear like direct hit, and the polar bear just like looks down at it and is like, that did nothing.
Right, like what we're saying, that Pepsi Man is what, 6'2", 6'3", and like
He looks pretty tall.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
over 6 feet.
and probably what, like we'll say he's like 240 and all muscle.
Sure.
Polar bears are like 900 pounds.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the
So
problem.
it's like nothing by comparison. But I think tiring out the polar bear is a legitimate
That's a
thing.
That seems fair.
So I think if you were running around the polar bear, I think this is where my little cool spots come in, because you are clumsy. So I think the smaller cool spots could definitely do like a pull a string between them, do a trip trap for Pepsi Man.
Here's the question though: does Cool Spot have a way to beat the polar bear?
So I think it might be easier for Cool Spot to suffocate the polar bear than Pepsi Man, because the polar bear wouldn't know, I guess, how dangerous the bubble is. I feel like I could trick a polar bear into breathing in the air bubble easier than I could trick.
It is
Pepsi
familiar
Man.
with carbonation. It does frequently drink Coca-Cola products.
Ooh, would it want the soda bubble then? It might want to get that.
I was
carbonation.
actually thinking about that too.
I think no. I think so. We do this by the numbers. Is how we do this.
Right.
I think so. I guess who would fight first is I think an important question. Who would be fighting each other first?
So I will say that polar bears are stealth hunters, and their victims are frequently unaware of their presence until the attack's underway, even when they're attacking humans, which they do sometimes actually.
But we're saying in this scenario that they're all head to head and they know that they're fighting each other.
In
right?
that case,
Yeah, if we're talking stealth, I can exist on a can of can of 7-Up.
that's true. That is true.
Doesn't get much stealthier than that.
Fair point. Okay.
Pepsi Man is not stealthy at all.
Yeah, he has a theme song playing.
Yeah, he has a theme song. Pepsi Man!
I think the way this starts is Pepsi Man like hits the boombox with a theme song and then sprints at the polar bear, right?
Probably.
So I guess that's
Yeah, it'll probably be
yeah.
Polar Bear and Pepsi Man first.
So if it's polar bear, Pepsi Man first, I think the advantage is to the polar bear, because I think Tiny Cool Spot is going to try and trip up Pepsi Man.
That seems
So they're not necessarily successful.
So you're
on
going to
that.
sabotage me.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick little.
So I think Polar Bear already has an edge on Pepsi Man, just like, I don't know, like 70-30
Right.
without Cool Spot, and then Cool Spot sabotages Pepsi Man even more.
Yeah,
That
so
seems
this
fair.
is probably going to be like probably like 80-20 maybe.
Yeah,
For
polar bear.
Pepsi Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's say it's 80-20. So it's polar bear. God, how did I do this last? I did this little spreadsheet here. Polar bear and Pepsi Man. Polar bear, Pepsi Man.
Oh god, we're such nerds.
Oh yeah, we got multiply probabilities, man. 0.8,
Mm-hmm.
0.2. And then from there, if polar bear fights Cool Spot. Oh man, it's like another like 0.8,
Odds
0.2.
still aren't great, right? Yeah, I'd probably say 0.8, 0.2 again.
I'd say it's more swayed than that.
Actually, probably yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
like 0.9, 0.1?
Yeah, 0.9.1.
0.9, 0.1.
I think maybe even like 95.
I would
Five.
so I would. I'm going to assume that the polar bear is at least somewhat tired out from the Cool Spot portion.
And mauling Pepsi Man's gotta take a little bit of effort.
Or sorry, yeah, the Pepsi Man portion.
But if Cool Spot trips me up, I didn't really have an opportunity to tire you out.
That's fair.
Right, but there's in the scenario that polar bear wins though, then yeah, you didn't get a chance to tire him out too much. So maybe like half the time he's tired but still wins.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that changed it to like 85-15 or just 90-10 is still probably the number.
It's probably still 90-10. Let's go 90-10.
90-10.
Yeah,
All right, so
sure, fine.
flipping to the other side of the scenario, Pepsi Man wins against the polar bear. Polar bear's out, tired.
Does Cool Spot have any chance against Pepsi Man? What's the game? I guess you can still trip him.
I mean, your
but...
strategy's the same thing.
Yeah, so I
right?
can still trip him.
But like, what do you do after that?
Well, after I trip him, I can just well, it depends if he breathes or not.
I don't know if I breathe.
I don't. That's kind
It
of.
doesn't
the
look like
question.
he breathes.
If you
Right?
don't breathe, then I cannot win.
I don't think he breathes.
How do you kill that which does not breathe?
I mean, just
with a polar bear. Come on, we went over this. Yeah, I think if Pepsi Man survives, Cool Spot is done for.
Okay.
He can
So
try to run, but Pepsi Man will eventually, after careening off several trees, catch him.
All right, so let me run the numbers here. This times this, and then equals this. Okay, that adds up to 100. I'm awesome. Okay,
All
cool.
right.
So, in last place, unsurprisingly, is Cool Spot with a 8% chance of victory.
That's honestly not bad.
it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as you may have guessed, Pepsi Man coming in second, 20%, because there's 20% chance he beats the polar bear, and then he always beats Cool Spot.
Right.
And then last one, polar bear, obviously way up in front, 72% chance of victory. Place your bets now on the Coca-Cola Pepsi polar bear. Coca-Cola polar bear. I don't know why I said Pepsi.
Coca-Cola, Pepsi, polar
The
bear.
the new friendship brand, Coca-Cola Pepsi. After decades of fighting, the two conglomerates have joined forces.
Do you think... I know I'm adding in a wrinkle after we've made probabilities. Do you think that the Coca-Cola polar bear recognizes Coke specifically, or is he like all cola beverages? Like, if you were to materialize a Pepsi, would he go for the Pepsi?
Would he be able to tell the difference?
But that's
I feel like he probably
counterproductive.
Would he take the Pepsi challenge?
It's counterproductive to tiring him out, though.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're
You've just
right. It goes
refreshed-
against your strategy. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't... I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Okay. It should be brought up, though, so I'm glad I considered that aspect. Okay.
I could throw the cans at you, though.
Also, I like the image that like my little Cool Spots are running around, and Pepsi Man like makes that whatever noise that he makes to summon Pepsi cans, and he summons like a full size Pepsi can on a tiny spot because it goes into their hand.
I'm 100% seen, by the way, in Return of the Jedi when the Ewoks are like bringing down ATSTs with like sticks and stuff. That's what I'm seeing when your Cool Spot attack is happening.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Except the ATSTs can't run 70 miles an hour if they get like tripped up.
Right? Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm okay with these. I'm good with these numbers. 8% Cool Spot, 20% Pepsi Man, 72% for the Coca-Cola polar bears,
Seems legit.
Yep.
and that will resolve our soda mascot fight.
Don't fight polar bears.
Ben wins a lot of these.
Yeah.
Ben wins a lot of fights.
Yeah. Well, it always winds up happening where just like I get the one that's like the last one we thought of, and it's just partially a lot of them are just really big, which is a very big advantage. This is basically the Kool-Aid Man fight again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So next up is our would you rather question of the episode. Chris, would you rather age backwards or just age forwards?
Just like a normal person.
Like a normal person.
So I can't remember. Obviously, this is based on the movie Benjamin Button. I can't remember when he's born. Is he just like, what does he look like when he's
He's
born?
like a little old man, right? I didn't actually see it,
he's-
but that's kind of what I assumed, I guess.
Okay, let's say this to avoid the birth problems. That you very quickly, like age 1, you very quickly accelerate like just into an old man. So like age 1 forward, you're old man gone.
Okay.
So that there's a reasonable amount of time for you to get to full size and then work your way backwards again. And then we don't have to deal with like we don't have to talk about, lady parts. Let's avoid that
Right.
conversation.
Mhm.
So I think aging backwards, you're going to run into a lot of social problems in your life. You're probably going to not really socially develop well.
Yeah.
But I do feel like most people that are older, they always say that they're like, they wish they knew what they did when they were younger because they're stronger when they're younger and they're wiser when they're older. So if you age backwards, then you're going to be wise when you're young. And that's like a power combo, right?
Like, well, you are signing yourself up for like the first like 50 years
first
of
half of your life is going to
be
is going to suck.
And then also, let's be honest here, the last like probably 15 years of your life would be pretty bad too.
Maybe like the last like 6, 7 maybe before you actually lose like too much functionality.
So here's one thing. Oh, actually, here's an important question. Does the world consider your age to be your like age since birth or your like physical
age since birth? You have to.
Okay. You're gonna get carded all the time when you're old.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to go to bars.
Yeah, if like an 8-year-old comes in with an ID that says they're like 86, no one's gonna buy that.
Yeah, but at the same time, like,
I mean, at that point in your life, you might just be sick of drinking anyway because you'll probably drink a ton when you're young.
Fair, yeah.
Also, like, you probably have the means to just buy alcohol somewhere else or through somebody that you've known for 60 years and then just...
Yeah, you have older friends.
Right. Oh my god. Now I'm seeing like an 85-year-old woman going and buying a beer and bringing it out to what is clearly like a 9-year-old in the car.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably going to suck in the beginning because either you're a really old... You look like a really old guy and you're hanging out with kids, which doesn't look great.
Nope.
Or you're a really old guy hanging out with other old guys and then all your old guys die.
Right.
Which is not great.
Here's something I'm thinking about. So I know we skipped like that first year of development, but your brain works very differently when you're old and when you're younger. It's much harder to learn things when you're older.
This is true.
So is do you just go through too much of your life without being able to learn things easily? Like language, like you can't learn a new language when like it's much harder to learn a new language when you're older.
Oh yeah. I didn't think about that. That's pretty
when
bad.
you're younger. So all the development parts of your brain,
bad.
It might not make a difference because you might not have that initial jump start you need to actually like function as a human.
Wow, this one might actually be really easy, huh? Is aging backwards just awful? I think aging backwards is just awful.
I don't remember in the movie if it was good or bad for Brad Pitt.
Well, he like, yeah, no, it's just, yeah, if you don't I can't see overcoming that development cycle because you just won't speak until you're like 10. That's
pretty much a non-starter.
Yeah.
And then who knows, like, can you go without object permanence until you're 5? Like, what's the ratio? Like, how long does it take you to learn things
I guess
like this?
It depends on how, like, nurturing your parents are.
Well, no, it doesn't, because it's just, your brain works differently.
No, I mean, like, if they put in that effort for longer...
Oh, you'll survive.
Wait until you develop.
To make this work at all, should we say that it's just, like, your physical body that's aging?
Oh, yeah, okay, let's switch it up. So if you have to worry about that, then obviously it doesn't work. So if it's your physical body, that's a little different.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather look forward to getting, like, fitter as I aged. I'd rather have something to look forward to, because if it's like...
Yeah, you reach your peak later in life.
Yeah.
Rather than earlier in life.
Like, when you're a kid, like, when you're in your early teens, and you're like, oh, man, I really want to do X, Y, or Z, or play this sport, or do this thing, it's like, you get to look forward to when you hit, like, you know, adulthood, and then you're just old and big enough to do those things.
So here's a counterpoint. That is true, and that is a very compelling argument. However, if you are aging backwards, let's say when you were born, you're effectively, like, 90? Like, that's like your effective body age. 90, is that a fair, like, starting
fine.
point?
90's fine.
So when you're, like, entering the workforce, you're going to be like a 70-year-old body. And when you're doing, like, shitty starting jobs, you are going to have instead of being, like, a young, spry, easily adaptable, 20-ish-year-old, you're going to be a 70-year-old man.
Ooh, whose back aches all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is going to be tough to keep up.
It's going to be really tough to keep up.
God, is the beginning of life just so cruel that you couldn't do it as an old man?
I kind of think that, right? And that just sets you back so far.
Yeah, and then, like, I guess the ideal we've been talking about is, like, the payoff is you get to be, like, 70, and now, like, you're in your prime, you have all this knowledge, and you do all this, but, like...
But you'd be, like, retired by then.
But at the same time, if you didn't do all those, like, you know, make it big in those early jobs, and you didn't, you know, you're
Right.
behind developmentally, and you're doing all these different things, you're probably not going to be in that great a position to really
Yeah, you're
take
just
too
gonna-
much advantage of it.
You're just going to be working, and you're going to start writing child labor laws.
I mean, you don't really need physically demanding work to be like in the beginning.
But even still, like think about going to college. Think about like the all-nighters and stuff you pulled in college, like write papers. Imagine doing that as a 70-year-old.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you need your body to have the energy to compensate for your lack of, you know, wisdom and planning and
Right.
ability to do things ahead of time.
So I think you gotta just be a normal ass person. I think that as appealing as the like being fully, you know, everything prime is, I just don't think you can actually take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you want to age the way nature intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna choose age normally before you pointed that out anyway. So
Well then.
Whoa.
so that's a pretty easy one.
All right. Well.
That was a good discussion though. There's cool stuff there to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's other cool things to talk about too, like talking about how cool our podcast is, which you can do if you leave us a review on either iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast that has a review section. Leaving a review is probably the best way that you can support this podcast. Even more than going on our Patreon directly giving us money, I think leaving a review is probably the best way you can help us grow. So please leave us a nice review. Let us get up in those search results. Let more people find our podcast, which lets us commit more and more time to the podcast, which makes the podcast better and better. So you are just improving your listening experience for free by leaving us a good review. And with that, we are going to see you next week where we answer the following question. What if sound waves were visible?